How to balance the scale, I'd like to talk about some things that bring us together. Things that point out our similarities instead of our differences. Because that's all you ever hear about in this country is our differences.
Wealth gap is getting worse. A new analysis shows the richest Americans, the top 1%, made nearly 20% of all the available income in America last year. That's the widest income gap since the Roaring '20s.
The combined trends of increased inequality and decreasing mobility pose a fundamental threat to the American dream, our way of life, and what we stand for around the globe. I believe this is the defining challenge of our time.
Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. So guys, can a person's view of economic inequality lead them to believe in conspiracies? We show evidence that, as a sort of collective level crisis, great economic disparity weakens the social fabric of society and fosters anomie, which may encourage conspiratorial thinking. By describing how inequality heightens feelings of anomie that, in turn, heighten conspiratorial thinking, we concentrate on the mechanism by which inequality should affect conspiratorial thinking. We conclude by making the point that the only way to fully comprehend conspiracy theories is to concentrate on the socio-structural settings that lead to them. In particular, conspiracy theories are rooted in and a reflection of the times that collectives live in, rather than being solely the result of individual folly. Was it really about tax the rich and help the middle class help the poor? Why tax the middle class and the poor at all? If it was all about the rich and how much money they hide, which is truth, there's a lot there, and it's continuing to divide. Here in this video, we will show you about the wealth gap conspiracy. Do you know? There are roughly 50% of those who are making over six figures, that's over $100,000 a year, are still living paycheck to paycheck. You think that was like the goal, right? That's like the dream is you go to the college and you get some $80,000 your job is. Well, those individuals are still living in paycheck to paycheck, probably because they have a ton of debt, maybe from their student loans, maybe from an overpriced home, and many more. This is taking place under the Keynesian model, which was implemented on the populace in 1971 and is still in effect today. We are now only beginning to realize how bad things have gotten under these Keynesian models, as opposed to before 1971, when corruption was at least somewhat restrained by the need for accountability to the money supply. And who benefits in a chaotic system if you are permitted to obtain loans at extremely low interest rates, or if money is just created and poured into the economy? Well, those who know how to game the system win. Those who know how to leverage win. If you want to get extreme wealth, you need to understand how to leverage. It is literally impossible to get extreme wealth without having leverage in it. Although different from income inequality, the two are related. Wealth is usually not used for daily expenditures or factored into household budgets, but combined with income, it represents a family's total opportunity to secure stature and a meaningful standard of living, or to pass their class status down to their children. Moreover, wealth provides for both short and long-term financial security, bestows social prestige, contributes to political power, and can be leveraged to obtain more wealth. Hence, wealth provides mobility and agency, the ability to act. The accumulation of wealth enables a variety of freedoms and removes limits on life that one might otherwise face. Due in large part to the concentration of corporate stock ownership in the top 1% and top 10% of the population from 1989 to 2019, the wealth of those groups of people increased. The poorest 50% of the population owns little to no corporate stock. From a global standpoint, the U.S. median and mean wealth per adult differ by more than 600%. According to a 2011 research, Americans from all political perspectives vastly underestimate the degree of income disparity in the country today and would prefer a much more egalitarian distribution of wealth. The wealth possessed by billionaires in the U.S. surged by 70% during the COVID-19 epidemic, with the year 2020 seeing the sharpest growth in billionaires' proportion of wealth on record. As of late 2022, according to Snopes, 735 billionaires collectively possessed more wealth than the bottom half of U.S. households. The top 1% held a total of $43.45 trillion. Nepotism perpetuates and increases wealth inequality. Wealthy families pass down their assets, allowing future generations to develop even more wealth. The poor, on the other hand, are less able to leave inheritances to their children, leaving the latter with little or no wealth on which to build. Wealthy parents often use their economic or political power to advantage their own children, such as by providing extra funding for education, excluding poor families from the local community or schools, using social connections to provide opportunities for advancement like internships, and allowing children to take entrepreneurial risks without risking homelessness or destitution. The wealthy deliberately arrange their money in accordance with their financial resources in order to make a profit. Rich people are more likely to invest their money in financial assets with the potential for capital growth, such as stocks, bonds, and other investments. People who are less rich are more likely to own homes and save money in savings accounts. The main cause of the persistence of wealth inequality in America is this disparity. The wealthy are amassing greater assets while the middle and working classes are barely scraping by. About 38% of all privately held wealth in the United States was held by the richest 1% as of 2007, while the bottom 90% held 73.2% of all debt. Moreover, other studies contend that a higher average savings rate will help to reduce the proportion of wealth held by the wealthy. The reason for this is that those who are wealthy are not always those who earn the most money. As a result, even if the absolute gap between the poorest quintiles and the richest will widen, the relative wealth share of the poorer quintiles of the population will rise. The nature of tax policies in America has been suggested by economists and politicians such as Emmanuel Says, Thomas Piketty, and Barack Obama to perpetuate economic inequality in America by steering large sums of wealth into the hands of the wealthiest Americans. The mechanism for this is that when the wealthy avoid paying taxes, wealth concentrates to their coffers and the poor go into debt. And you may be familiar with the fact that some tax policies subsidize wealthy people more than poor people. Critics often argue the home mortgage interest deduction should be abolished because it provides more tax relief for people in higher tax brackets and with more expensive homes, and that poorer people are more often renters and therefore less likely to be able to use this deduction at all. Regressive taxes include payroll taxes, sales taxes, and fuel taxes. According to a 2022 study published in the American Economic Journal, the reason why there is more economic disparity in the U.S. than in Europe has nothing to do with the U.S. tax and transfer systems. The study concluded that, compared to other European nations, the United States redistributes a higher proportion of its wealth to the lower half of the income distribution. And sadly, the wealth gap between white and black families nearly tripled from $85,000 in 1984 to $236,500 in 2009. A Brandeis University Institute on Assets and Social Policy paper cites the number of years of homeownership, household income, unemployment, education, and inheritance as leading causes for the growth of the gap, concluding homeownership to be the most important. According to a report written by Robert B. Avery and Michael S. Rendall, 1 in 3 white households will receive a substantial inheritance during their lifetime, compared to only 1 in 10 black households. Inheritance can directly link the poor economic position and prospects of today's black people to the poor positions of their parents' and grandparents' generations. So, to reduce the wealth gap, in 2014, Senator Bernie Sanders proposed for a wealth tax in the U.S. Later, in January 2019, Senator Elizabeth Warren proposed a yearly wealth tax with a 2% tax for wealth over $50 million and an additional 1% surcharge for wealth over $1 billion. Real estate and financial assets are both included in the definition of wealth. Washington state officials discussed levying a tax on the state's richest citizens in 2021. In President Joe Biden's proposed budget for 2023, there are 2 proposed tax changes for households with wealth above $100 million. First is a new minimum tax at death for unrealized capital gains above $1 million. Second is to realized capital gains as ordinary income, which is expected to effectively raise the percent of capital taxed from 23.8% to 43.4%. Basically, if you notice the wealthy individuals, you will find that they have 100% control of their time. They wake up in the morning, they choose what they're going to do. Now their odds are they're very effective, and they work very hard. And if you notice the poor, it's that they tend to be told what to do with their time. They're stuck working some dead-end jobs. They have a bunch of debt. Whatever it might be, there's something sucking their time away from them, and they're not able to concentrate on accumulating wealth. So it's really important for you to hold control over your time and plan your day. So that's all for today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and it was very informative for you. Do like and share this video, and also don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get the notification when we upload the latest video on our channel. Goodbye, friends, and see you soon in the next video.